So we'll go ahead and get started like we do with every ECHO session. We'll start with some introductions. We have some new voices and new faces that are joining us. We always like to know who you are and where you're from. Then we'll jump into our didactic portion of ECHO. So every ECHO has about a 30 to 40 minute didactic training session, followed by our case presentation. And Connie Clements is here to talk about ECHO case ID 9229. So welcome everybody to the April 20th, 2015 ECHO and AT session. As I discussed, today we're going to talk about apps for communication. And Wendy Alameda and Darcy Regan from our water staff will be giving you guys some kind of tips and tools and some specific apps that they recommend. So we'll start with introductions. I'm Canyon Hardesty. I'm the coordinator of community education here at WIN and your facilitator for your ECHO and AT session.
Wendy Alameda, Assistive Technology Specialist and Project Coordinator for Water.
Connie Clements, Special Ed Admin, County School District number 1 and TDI.
Alicia RC, AT Specialist.
Giselle Knopf, AT Associate.
Tom James, IT.
Darcy Regan, speech language pathologist.
Barbara Locke, AT Specialist for Water in Lander.
Gail?
I'm Gail Bowser. I'm the lead trainer for the Wyoming ECHO project, and I'm coming to you from Oregon.
Kelly Bonner.
Live at the Milwaukee Airport at Gate 65. I do consulting and training in assistive and educational technologies.
Thanks for joining us, Kelly.
Thanks for having me.
And Stephanie Crawford.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Crawford. I'm a speech language pathologist and augmentative communication specialist in Oregon in the schools.
Stephanie, thanks for joining us. Chris.
Hi, I'm Chris Victor. I'm a speech language pathologist and part of the AT team for Bighorn County 1 in Burlington, Wyoming. That's it.
Thanks. Laura.
Hi, I'm Laura Ozias Townsend. I am the Vision Outreach Consultant for the Wyoming Department of Education.
Thanks for joining us. Katie.
Hi, I'm Katie Harmon, and I'm a resource teacher in School District number 2 in Green River and AT coordinator for the district.
Nancy Joe.
All the way to the right, top right.
There you go.
Whoops. Hi, I'm Nancy Jo Vogel. I am the coordinator of Oregon Technology Access Program.
I'm Shar Powell with the OTAP as well, and I'm the AT Resource Specialist.
Great. Thanks for joining us today. Pam.
Do I teach to communicate using switches?
Pam, would you be willing to start over with your introduction? Your line was muted, so we didn't hear the whole thing.
Okay. I'm Pam Morgan. I live in Evanston, Wyoming, and I've been working DD waiver for about 15 years, and I work with some participants who I use switches to communicate with them.
Great. Thanks so much for joining us today. Go ahead, Kimberly.
Kimberly Berry with Oklahoma Able Tech. I went out and visited with the folks in Wyoming recently and really enjoying being a part of your group. I work with mainly with accessible educational materials, but also training teachers in all areas of assistive technology support.
Great. Go ahead, Jenny.
Did you say Jenny?
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
I'm Jenny Chidsey with the Wyoming Department of Education Vision Outreach Services in the Cheyenne office.
Great. Thanks for joining us today. How about Cindy? bottom left.
She's muted. Oh, wait, bottom left.
Oh, that.
Yeah, that one's Cindy.
Yeah, that. Right.
Go ahead, Cindy, if you'd give us an introduction.
I'm Cindy Livingston. I work with Wyoming Independent Living. I'm the transportation specialist out of Sheridan, Wyoming.
Great. Thanks so much for joining us today. Angie?
I'm Angie Van Houten with the Wyoming Department of Health, and a few of us over here at the Department of Health had met with Kenyon and maybe a couple weeks ago and learned a little bit about ECHO, and so she said that it was it might be good to join one of your sessions. So I hope you don't mind me joining, but it's just helpful to actually see how this process works. So I appreciate you giving me the opportunity.
Great. Thanks for joining us today. And Jonna, if you'd go ahead.
Hi, I'm Jonna Strader with the Wyoming Department of Workforce Services Division of Vocational Rehabilitation. I'm the Wyoming Relay Equipment Distribution Program Manager.
Great. Thanks so much for joining us today. So we have lots of new people on the line, so that's great to see and hear all these new individuals. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, so I was just going to tell that Cindy, Jonah, and Angie, I'm going to leave you guys unmuted, but if you can just watch the background noise, please, because it's hard to tell if if they need to talk.
Yeah. Well, and Angie, the way that I see yours is you could probably hang up the phone because it looks like your audio is active on your video site. So if you hung up, or can you not hear us through your computer?
I think you can hear me when I talk, but I can't hear you for some reason.
Okay, that's fine. We'll go ahead and leave it this way, and then I can test it with you afterwards.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry about that. I just wasn't hearing anything when you all were talking when I first got on.
Okay, no problem. And then just a quick reminder: if this is your first time to an ECHO session, and you're able to in the chat bar, just make sure you email us or send us your email address, so we can go ahead and make sure that you're added onto our distribution list and that we have your contact information in order to give you credits for the session. So thanks everybody again for attending. I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor over to Darcy and Wendy to go through their didactic training and talk about some apps for communication. It looks like Darcy has shared the screen, so the floor is yours, Darcy.
Cool. Today Wendy and I are going to be presenting on apps for communication. I want to introduce Wendy to you. Wendy serves as a project coordinator and assistive technology specialist for the Wyoming Assistive Technology Resources.
Darcy, I'm going to interrupt you real quick. Gail, what do you have?
I don't know if anybody else is seeing it, but I have a hugely enlarged screen and I can't see the whole thing.
Oh, you can't see the...
No, I'm seeing about a quarter of the screen. Is that true for other people?
Barb, you can see it. Chris, can you see it okay? Oh.
Talk about the genie in the machine.
Goodness, between last week and this week, I'm literally eating my words about saying we don't ever really have problems with the technology.
Kimberly took hers off full screen. Are you able to take yours off full screen, Gail?
Oh, maybe. Let's try that.
You can also, Gail, go up to the more and put it fit to screen up at the top.
Oh.
There you go. Thank you. That's what I needed.
Okay. Ooh. Okay. So sorry for the interruption, Darcy. No, the technology is working. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So Wendy has many jobs, and she also works for Agribility, the Wyoming Deaf-Blind Equipment Distribution Program. And Wendy has 15+ years experience in teaching and working with students birth through 21. We have no disclosures, and today we're going to explore the clinical features of communication apps for iPad users, aged children through adults. I want to point out a couple great resources for you all here. Boston Children's Hospital has a wonderful feature matching checklist to consider when looking at apps. And there's also a paid program through the company called AAC Tech Connect, which has an apps assistant as well as a device assistant. We've created for you an apps rating sheet that looks at the clinical features of different apps. All of these handouts, by the way, will be getting to you at the end of our presentation today if you do not already have them. One particular form I like to use is from a gal out of Australia. I was able to contact her and ask her if we could go ahead and use her matrix for looking at communication apps. This will be another handout that will be provided for you after today's session. But it asks some leading questions like, what is your communication challenge? What communication is required? How do you envision that person participating? What can that person already do? And what do they need to add? Oftentimes, individuals will choose communication apps without thoroughly going through the decision-making or feature matching process. So these resources and guided questions can really help tailor your assessment to meet that individual's needs, as well as look at the available device features. There is a little bit of research out there on some communication apps, one of which was a white paper. Now, do take caution, this white paper was made by Assistiveware, okay? Assistiveware is the company that created Prolo Quote ago, but they collaborated with University of San Diego and California State University, San Marcos, in creating their white paper called Taking the Pulse Out of Augmentative and Alternative Communication. They gave a survey to 233 people, including AAC users, who used AAC on the iPad. It's no surprise they found that 60 to 80% of these users had improved their communication, independence, and behavior once starting to use Prolo Quote Go. It also goes on to point out that 1/3 of AAC users once used a high-tech communication device and now have gone to an iOS device strictly for AAC. Now, of course, we've got a small sample size. We do have some preliminary research here. And of course, we've got the bias, being that the survey was done by Assistiveware. But nonetheless, it did uncover some interesting patterns of AAC use and reinforce the fact that there is an extreme shortage of individuals who are skilled in the area of AAC and capable of assisting families with effective AAC use. There's also a few other articles listed below on some preliminary research. Well, oftentimes we get asked the question, which kind of app do I use with which type of communicator? So when looking at some of our favorite apps, we've got the beginning communicator. It's going to be matched to an app called the Go Talk Now. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Go Talk Now, you may recall the hard green Go Talk static devices. Well, the makers, Attainment Company, has now put this on an app. It's a very engaging app. It includes some video. It's very easy to program, music. And you have the option of programming 2 symbols all the way up to 48 symbols. The next app for a beginning communicator is going to be Prolo Quote Go. You might recognize the owl. There's going to be 2 templates on this Prolo Quote Go. There's going to be your basic communication pages and your core word vocabulary pages. You've probably heard that word, core word, come up over and over. And in fact, I think we're seeing a resurgence of that in the AAC community. The core word includes your most commonly, frequently used words. Now, when you want to get into more phrase-based communication templates, you're going to want to switch over to your basic communication pages within the Prolo Quo to Go app. The Touch Chat app is probably one of my favorite apps in that it offers many different vocabulary templates, so it's going to grow with the learner. Last couple weeks we talked about some visual scene displays, and these really help those beginning communicators by providing that context of language and help create that shared communication. So the Dynavox Compass app is a new app available on the iPad that offers the visual scene display. That's just one of many that are featured here. And we also have another app called Seen and Heard, and this is out of the UK. It also has a visual scene display, so we'd like to show you a quick clip introducing Seen and Heard.
Down. Where did it go?
Oh, down here, right? Down here.
No, that's the speaker here. Go over to here.
No, I joined without the audio.
Oh, did we? Yeah.
Why don't you go ahead and then I'll pull these up at the end.
Okay. With the audio going?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, wait, I didn't mean to do stop share, right? Oops, I really messed it up now. Pardon for these little technical difficulties. We'll go ahead and show the videos for you at the end. Basically, it's giving us a little introduction of Seen and Heard. So I need help getting back on over here.
Yep, you're right there. You're there first.
Oh, I got it. Okay. Well, we were talking about beginning communicators, and I also want to highlight a couple more apps. Autism Mate 365 is another app for beginning communicators. You're going to see your visual scene display at the kitchen and what is considered your hotspots. For instance, the hotspot on the fridge would then lead into another pop-up of items in the fridge. The other portion of Autism Mate is what's considered those contingency maps or those behavioral maps. The first, the then, it does have some built-in video modeling, and it does have some checklists that can be helpful for kiddos. The Speak All app is also for a beginning communicator, and it's much like your PECs, whereby you're going to be able to drop your card down into your sentence strip and then speak aloud. Now, moving on to the page-based communicator, you're going to have an individual that might still need a little help navigating that app. So you might want to bring up your breakfast items for them first of all, but you're beginning to combine some symbols. So a couple apps we've talked about for a page-based communicator might be the multi-chat setting within your Touch Chat app. Your multi-chat has 15 symbols, and they do have a multi-chat which includes the ability to program news from home and school and vice versa. So for instance, you might do a programmable button with multi-chat, and it says, how was your day today? And you can either voice record it and say, oh, Johnny had a great day. So when he brings his iPad back home, Mom will say, how's your day? And then he'll go into his school news and he'll say, oh, today I had a great day. Your linked system communicator is going to bump up to Word Power. Word Power is a program that was created by speech-language pathologist Nancy Inman. It's going to be core word vocabulary. Each button is going to be a word, And you have an option within Touch Chat to go all the way up to word power 80, meaning there's going to be 80 symbols per page. You also have the ability to have an on-screen keyboard with word prediction. Your combination communicator, again, has the ability to use maybe Proloquo or your Touch Chat with word power. We talked briefly a few months ago about an app called AAC Corn, and we'll show a quick clip at the end of today's presentation about AAC Corn. It's much like a word map. It's not going to be strictly grid-based in that it's going to predict words or symbols that will follow. We'll take a peek at this again at the end so you can get a better idea of AAC Corn. Predictable is another favorite of Wendy and I's. It's going to be a text-based AAC app. It has the ability to use handwriting. So you can literally handwrite on the app, and that'll turn the handwriting, either cursive or print, into text, which will then speak aloud. Now your photojournalist communicator, much like your visual scene displays, are going to be those individuals that have many custom page sets and has visual scene displays. Touch Chat has visual scene displays within the 42 location and up. So I want to point out we did have a session on the Go Talk Now, and that'll be archived on the iEcho site. And a couple years ago, I went ahead and did 3 webinars on communication apps, all of which are also archived on our water site. And one of them, if you ever want a little detailed tutorial about how to program Touch Chat, I've got that right there on our website. This last piece I just love. I got in touch with this guy who was doing his doctoral dissertation at Johns Hopkins, and he had this rubric he was using. Did we lose it? Oh, cool. He had this rubric he was using to give more feedback on apps, something that folks can take with them to show whether or not that particular app is working. And again, this will be provided to you and for your own use. And like always, we do have iPads available for loan, so you don't have to go out and buy that app. You can give us a call. You can give us some specifics if you like and tell us we have this particular communicator. We're looking for an app that does X, Y, and Z. We'll give you an iPad for 3 weeks to try out when they do become available. And we just ask that you send them back. And again, I've got a reference sheet for y'all. It'll give some cost breakdowns of the app, as well as if they offer Spanish and English. And we'll see if we can run our clips real quick, if we're doing okay on time, and answer some questions.
Okay, we won't show any of those, but we will take questions or comments. Have anybody used these apps with success? What questions do you have for Darcy on maybe other recommendations she may have? Go ahead, girl.
Excuse me. Combination communicators. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that. When I first heard you talk, I thought, oh, there's an app called Combination Communicator, but I'm
well, this was something that a gal had made up. Maybe I got it from Quiet. I know I put the reference on for y'all. And she classified apps within certain types of communicators, because the times I've done app presentations before, you know, folks want to know what kind of app do I use with what kind of person.
Uh-huh.
So do you want me to talk a little bit more about what a combination communicator is?
Yes, please. I would love that.
Well, they're not going to have the ability to spell, so they wouldn't necessarily need like on-screen keyboard, although I'm a big proponent of always giving an individual a voice output keyboard because they can play around with the keyboard and listen to those sound combinations and build their phonemic awareness skills. You can support them with word prediction, and they may or may not need a device to call on the phone or electronically control the environment. So nowadays, Medicare is really hacking down and not even giving folks the ability to use email or phone or other sorts of communication styles that are communication. So combination's going to be in between, what was it, your photojournalist and your page-based. So you've got somebody that's going to have their own idea of categories. Most AAC systems are categorically based. So you have your food, your clothing. You're going to have somebody who could probably handle a dynamic screen in that once they hit eat, it's going to pop up with a second level of foods so that they know that there's, page change. There's 2 hits that are required. But when you look at that, you guys might have to look at that video of the AAC corn. You're going to see it's much different in that you still have the categories, but see the picture, how they have they said, I want A. Then after they put in the A, you've got your word prediction comes up a banana, a apple, a sandwich. Comes all right up in that web for them. So it says word prediction, but if you think about it, this app's using word prediction, but only with symbols, which is really, I think, is really quite helpful for those beginning and combination communicators. But like I said, this reference was from Wilcombe and Buell. Were the individuals who coined the terms for each of these categories.
Great. Any additional comments or questions?
Just a disclaimer that I'm going to throw out there too. Darcy really is the expert on these AAC apps, and my role is basically to support individuals when they request a loan from the water lab. We'll get the iPad, and then I will take Darcy's recommendations and make sure that it's loaded on the iPad correctly, and then help facilitate any technical assistance that may be needed throughout that loan period. So I, by no means, am the AAC app expert. I do know about the different apps that are available, but Darcy can really help facilitate making those recommendations based on what you've told us about the student or individual that is needing a communication app. So just so everybody's aware of that.
Kimberly, did you have a comment?
Yeah. Yes, I just have a question. Are you finding that people who are using the apps for communication on an iPad, are they also able to use that app or use an iPad for like reading Bookshare or using other kinds of apps, note-taking apps, or are the ones that are using the apps for speech, are they pretty much using it as if it was a dedicated device still?
Yeah, it seems that way. Is that what you're seeing?
It seems like it. It just seems like it would be really hard if someone is using that as their communication. Then it's really hard for them to go from one app to another to be doing their work, and then you'd have to get out of that to be able to communicate. So that was kind of my thoughts all along. But I just wondered if what you're seeing in practice. Really, we kind of have 2 different groups of people borrowing the iPads, mainly ones for speech, and then a pretty separate group for the accessible educational materials, and then a few here and there that will cross over, but mainly they're separate. So I just kind of wondered your thoughts on it.
Yeah, when Barb and I were about 3 years ago, we were doing the AAC and AT intake forms. We wanted to make a note of literacy and reading and writing on the AAC intake form so people think about those things and not only the communication.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Barb?
I agree with Darcy. I think originally when we were making iPad loans, people were borrowing an iPad and we would put as many things as possible on there because they just wanted to see what was available. But now that those individuals are working with iPads and there are more iPads available in their districts, they have iPads. They just want to determine whether or not an app is going to work before they request that app be purchased. Because typically in most school districts, there's a procedure involved with getting an app for a student. So we, if we do download multiple AAC apps, we're usually only doing 2 or 3. And then the teams can then determine, well, this one, the student gravitated more towards these symbols and using this grid than they did on these other ones. So I definitely think that now when people are requesting an iPad, it's for one particular purpose and not like that general, let's get all hundreds of apps that you have and try them out.
Great. Okay, any other comments before we move on to our echo case? Okay, well, Connie, we'll turn the floor over to you to talk about your echo case 9229. Just make sure that you speak up so they can hear.
Okay. This echo case is probably very unique. We have a student who was with me all year last year, split between 2 elementary schools. So in the morning, he's at one school, and in the afternoon, he comes back to me. He is autistic, he's mute, and his chronological age is probably 2+. So we're running into a lot of different issues with him because he is at 2 different schools. I see him only for writing now when I saw him last year for everything. So it makes it hard that I get 30 minutes a day with him. But we're running into problems on what do we do with him as far as writing. He is able to tap an iPad to turn a page for a book. Sometimes he understands what you say and sometimes he doesn't. A lot of times he's in a lot of pain that we don't know where that's coming from. And so then we deal with behavior issues and biting and pulling hair. And so we have a lot of different issues going on with him. He's a very sweet boy, but to get an actual writing of anything from him, we were working on his name, and I've done an outline with tape for his first name, which starts with an L. So he can put a marker in between and follow the lines, but we can do it over and over and over again. And then if you let him do it on his own, no concept of what you've been doing with him. Even the up and down issue, he doesn't get it. We can start at the top of a whiteboard and go down, and he can't do that. Everything has to have something for a pencil now to do circles. I have it so it fits inside of a lid. And we go round and round and round, hand over hand, but you try to let him do it by himself, can't do it, doesn't understand the concept. He is using a modified PEX system. Everything is actual pictures instead of the PEX pictures. So hopefully we thought that that would help him. And so we have 2 different schools using actual pictures, which is a lot of taking pictures of different things. So I guess right now I'm at a loss on what we really need to do with him as far as writing and if writing is really a concept that we need to do. We started out this year with him, he has a stamp for his name, so he can stamp it on a piece of paper. Our goal with him was to try to put the stamp inside a certain size box, just so he would understand the concept that your name goes up in the top right-hand corner. Well, he doesn't understand the concept of the box. And we'll just stamp anywhere on the paper. He's got the concept of the stamp down, but not the concept that it fits inside of a box. We started with a really large box and then slowly made it smaller and smaller, but that concept is not there. The next goal we did with him was, let me see. He does task box during the day, a variety of different things, putting circles in the circle hole and the squares in the square holes. I mean, he has a variety of different tasks that he does at the other school, and even though we're in communication with them, if I can actually see the task that he's doing, it makes it kind of difficult for me. I've been over there a couple times, but it's kind of hard to go over and say, this is what you guys are doing and this is what we're doing. So I don't know if this will continue for next year. It sounds like right now parents want it to continue at both schools. His siblings are at the school that I work at, so I think that makes it hard for the parents because they have him in a living schools classroom at the other school, where we do not have that at the University of Wyoming Lab School. So right now, I guess what I'm looking at is if you guys have any great ideas on how to get this student to do any kind of writing, if we can just get the kid to go up and down, left and right, the concept is just not there. And I'm not sure where we go from here. Since we have a goal about writing, and last year we used an iPad and he was able to trace letters of his name, but once again it was hand over hand and it was using a stylus, which he didn't do too bad. And then at the end, after we spelled his name, we put in a picture and his picture would pop up and it would actually say his name, but still the concept of that is not there.
Great. So what questions do we have? Go ahead, Kelly.
Can you tell me a little bit about what he's doing in reading?
I wish I could.
Because that's happening at the other school?
That's what he does at the other school. So like I said, I only see him for writing 20 minutes a day.
And in the report it said that he has, that you have a lot of cooperation from his mother and he's got some brothers?
His mother she's very into his education. Mute situation or, you know, the PEC system, we are now on 2 pictures with him. And he just knows if he gives you a picture, he's going to get something, whether that's what he wants or not. He'll give you a picture, and if he doesn't want it, you see it on the floor, or he's mad or angry, and then we deal with that issue.
Is he totally mute?
Yep.
You don't hear a sound?
We hear, you know, jabber, or he does, sometimes he'll scream. Last year I felt like every now and then you'd hear the word no. I'm not sure if it was actually no, but sure sounded like it. And this year I don't hear as much as I did last year.
Well, just to know that for dual language kids, I mean, he's a little bit old, but for dual language kids, that's not unusual, that they're very quiet, and that it takes them longer to get speech out. I mean, it's not unusual that it takes them a long time for some kids with autism till they start producing speech in either language for kids on the spectrum. But PECS it's a nice starting block for him. I read in the report that that somebody was also using the app ICOM with him.
We tried that last year just because we were taking so many pictures of everything. Because we had to take pictures of the whole staff at the school, the music room, the PE room. I mean, you know, it was just constant picture, picture, picture. And the only problem we ran into that is it would bring up a picture and it would say yes or no. And he didn't understand the concept. What am I pushing and why am I pushing anything? But it was so easy to have because we could just go around and put the pictures in.
Right.
And now we're taking hundreds of pictures a day. I'm sure they take more than we do, just so we have a real visual picture for him and not the PEC stuff, because I don't think he'd understand that at all.
Well, that was just one of the things I was looking at in reading the report is that, like in the app ICOM, it's a different strategy than picture exchange because you're pushing and listening rather than taking and giving.
Sure.
And that's often a thing that we see that people do in the world of OGCOM is they move kids from picture exchange where you give to communicate versus push to listen to communicate. So if I understand the world of taking pictures and taking pictures and taking pictures, and doing that on an iPad might be more efficient. So if you want to explore apps that are picture exchange like, there are about 5 or 6 apps that are built around the strategy of picture exchange. So you could look at some of those and do them still with images and have a more subtle transfer from a physical exchange into the world of iPad building your message with images. So you could look at things like PandaPal or Grace or My Choice. I can send that list of those apps that you might want to look at. FCS is another one. I Ask You. And then PEX has their own. PEX has PEX Phase 3 is all built around the I want, and then you add the picture to it. So those are things that would keep you within the world of, putting an image with that and then just seeing them on the sentence strip. And it wouldn't be a different kind of OGCOM strategy, looking at it that way. And I don't know if other people have ideas on the OGCOM side. I don't want to manipulate time.
No, you're fine. We have plenty. What other questions? Nancy Jo? Go ahead, you're unmuted.
Thank you. I'm wondering about cause and effect. Does the student have the concept of cause and effect?
I would have to say no.
Because it seems like we kind of need to maybe take a step backward a little bit and work on that concept. With maybe some cause and effect type apps that will have him understand the concept that when he's pointing to a picture for an OGCOM picture, that something's going to happen when he does that. So, without that cause and effect skill, so I would almost take a step backwards and be working on cause and effect and maybe do some apps where he's, getting his finger in that square and balloons start popping or that kind of thing, so that he sees some kind of effect to what he does.
And I'm going to interrupt questions real quick. It looks like somebody's joined us. Who's joined us?
Hi, it's Kim.
Hi, Kim.
Hi.
Hi. Sorry, I'm really...
Will you introduce yourself? I'm not sure everybody knows who you are, Kim.
Oh, sorry. I'm Kim Baker. I'm from Beaverton, Oregon. AC specialist, AT consultant.
Great. Nice to see you.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Gail. What was your question?
Yeah, Connie, can you tell us a little bit more about what his daily educational setting is at your school?
When he arrives at our school, he eats lunch, goes to recess, then I see him for 20 minutes, and most of the afternoon is pretty much PE, art, music, and then they have some downtime, probably 10-15 minutes before they actually go home, where he's sitting down reading books and interacting with those kids. He's very familiar with those students at our school since he was there all last year, and not so much at the other school. They haven't really taken him in, but he only started there right before Christmas. So I don't know, is that helpful for you?
Yeah, thank you. And in your school, then he's pretty much in an inclusive setting. He's in his regular grade level?
Yeah, in his regular grade level, and when he goes to PE, then he has adapted PE. He does have a one-on-one para who's with him, and like he goes into the art room, he eats the glue, the paint, you know, one of those.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Chris.
Hi, I was just wondering if you could speak to his play and to his preferences and his gross motor skills if you're talking about like fine motor for writing.
He loves to play basketball. I can tell you if you bounce a ball to him, most of the time he's not even looking at it, and he can get it and bounce it back to you, and there's never any real eye contact on the ball. He's very good at that. He's very good running around when he's with the adaptive PE teacher. In fact, he loves the exercise. We've tried a variety of different things with him as far as holding a utensil, writing utensil. We've tried the big jumbo pencils, and we've tried the smaller pencils. And a lot of times he'll grab it with a grasp. We haven't got the finger thing down to hold a pencil correctly, but he does grab it. And you know, if you let him go to the whiteboard by himself, he'll just do whatever he wants. We just can't get the concept of up and down. If he would just follow a dotted line, or even the line that we've always drawn for him, we just can't get that.
So I wonder, you talked about him doing the puzzle thing at the other school, where he, work tasks where he puts the right shapes in the right holes. What do they say about how he does that?
It's not like 100%. He's probably at 20%, and then he gets mad if the circle doesn't fit in the square, and you know, and then they're dealing with a behavior issue, or he just doesn't want to do that task altogether. I do a task where I hand him the letters that are Velcroed, and we spell his name one letter at a time. And I have to point to the letter, and sometimes he'll put it up there, or he just puts it on any Velcro he wants. And if I ask him to move it, a lot of times I'll get a response, and he will move it to the correct letter, but the concept of that isn't there. And we've been doing that for 2 years. I'll hand you a letter, I'll show you where the letter goes, you put the letter on the Velcro piece, and you know, we're probably at maybe 30%.
So you make me wonder what his vision's like. Has he had a good vision assessment?
Yes. He goes to Denver probably 3 times a year. I mean, his parents are wonderful about that. He has no vision issues. He did have tubes in his ears when he entered kindergarten, but they have taken those out. He does not have a very good sleep pattern. If he doesn't sleep, mom will keep him home till he wakes up, and then he's brought to school. So a lot of times it isn't a consistent thing. So that kind of makes it difficult.
Go ahead, Barb.
So when you're working with these materials, are they flat on the desk, or?
No, they're usually on a slant board in front of him.
Like what kind of an angle then?
Probably, you know, we've tried all different angles. 90 is probably too high for him. We've noticed that the more it's slanted, the easier it is for him to actually use the writing utensil. If it's straight up and down, for some reason, that just doesn't work for him.
And like it all in midline?
It depends on what day it is. Every day to me is a new day for him.
So when you say he goes to Denver Children's, have you seen like a report on a functional vision assessment? or they just say, yeah, his acuity is okay.
No, he has no vision problems at all.
But yeah, you've seen that
Yes.
report?
Yes.
Okay. I guess since I'm still unmuted, that I wonder if you, well, yeah, this is a challenging one, but like some touch surfaces that would give him immediate sound, output, like I guess the IntelliKeys, something that, yeah, I suppose if you really pounded that sucker, you could break it, but especially if you had an overlay that might have some texture to it or some real color to it, that he could, instead of doing that physical, the physical act of writing, just touch and get an immediate response, that we know that, like, the touch surface of an iPad is a scary thing, huh? Because that will crack. And I guess if people are really invested in the physical act of writing, maybe using some deeper templates, not so much of his name, but maybe using just puzzle pieces and maybe taping it to either a little like individual whiteboard or a piece of paper, so that there's some tactile, they're kind of thick, there's some tactile boundary about if I scribble, there's this boom, 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 when I'm doing that. It's not just, you can't really notice it, but so it would give him more of a physical cue. And then, like in the world of name signs versus letters, have the team think about a name sign for him that would represent him for right now.
Great.
I'm just going to add to Barb's.
Go ahead, Wendy.
Barb had also earlier commented about WikiSticks. And using WikiSticks, we have some that have the alphabet, where he could create, use the WikiSticks to create letters too, and still, again, getting rid of that kind of writing with it.
Go ahead, Chris.
Hi, just a couple thoughts. One, I really love the idea of taking a step back and really looking at the cause-effect piece. Secondly, a lot of times with our kiddos with autism, there's an interesting perception piece that's going on too, about not necessarily knowing like where they end. Like if you say here or there, like those are really abstract terms and such. And even up and down, you're saying, you don't think he really has that yet. So I would suggest maybe taking a step back and looking at those pieces and really defining those borders. I really love the idea of Barb's idea of using the tactile parameters and such. And then my other thing is, and this comes with a disclaimer, that I am a core word girl. I really am. And when I hear that that you guys are taking pictures of everything, I think, oh my gosh, you guys are working so way, way, way hard. But I'm wondering, how are you picturing things like more or stop or pain? Like those things that, like you're saying, he hurts sometimes. He's got pain. How can we help him express that, and those kinds of things. So so maybe kind of looking at those core words, like especially the first 10 or 20 that are just so packed and powerful. If you can give him those, and he gets it, that would, oh wow, I'm just thinking that could really open up some things for him. So that's it. I'm just gonna shut now.
No, those are great suggestions, and as always, send them our way, and we'll make sure that you get them all, Connie. Go ahead, Gail.
Well, I want to take off on what Chris said. It's hard not to address communication, expressive communication with this kid, because it sounds like that's such a huge part of what's happening for him every day, is his inability to express in appropriate ways. But if I think about the task of writing specifically, and I'm trying to stick with that because that's the question you asked. But if I think about the task of writing, I'm starting to think about, okay, what are the prerequisite skills that get you up to being able to copy a line or move a pencil or a marker or something around a shape or something like that. So it seems like there might be some items like just simple matching. It doesn't sound like he has that concept. You know, all different kinds of matching, and that is a prerequisite skill to being able to write, unless you're just concerned about the motor aspect of making the pencil move, which it doesn't sound like he has trouble with. So I think there are things that lead up to being able to copy a line. And I'm wondering if other people have ideas about what those might be, if we stick with the writing task.
Go ahead, Wendy.
Going along with that, I know in the early childhood setting, especially with some of our toddlers, we did a lot of those gross motor, if that's something he's interested in. And, you know, those up and down, and we would hold all kinds of things, pom-poms or shakers, you know, and kind of trace those flashlights in a dark room, so he's watching, you know, different ways that it's going. It sounds to me part of his problem, it's not his vision, but it's that eye contact. So if he's, you know, not able to look at that screen or anything on the paper, you know, he's just not focusing. Even a basketball coming at him, I mean, he's using his auditory much more than his visual system to interpret things that are happening around him. So, you know, I don't know if they're just, you know, brain gyms was one of the things we did a lot in the classroom. They've got some me moves. We've got that system as well that you look at.
Other ideas? Other suggestions? Go ahead, Kimberly.
Okay, I typed it in the chat, but just in case. I liked the idea also about using the cause and effect, and if I think that if you were to try to think of it like you were teaching a child to use a switch, then you know, use the same concept. You would try to give them something that they really hate, and then something that they really like, and you know, get them to you know, if they want the thing that they like, then they have to write their name or whatever the writing task would be. But just very simple, you know, and don't try to have a lot of pictures, especially complex pictures, but maybe really simplify it and just have, you know, work on one picture or two and make them really simple pictures, and just really, really simplify it, and just, you know, try to use it as the reward. And I know you said that he had no visual issues, but I just want to clarify whether that's just you know, he's been to an eye doctor and the eye doctor says he has no vision problems, or has he actually had a functional visual assessment? Because it's not a, you know, CVI is not a problem in the eyes, and an eye doctor probably won't find it.
He's
So,
been a child ophthalmologist. So parents tell me up until his age of 2, he was battling like any normal child, and one day he woke up and there was nothing. Yeah.
Well, I think CVI can can be mistaken, cortical visual impairment can be mistaken for autism. And I'm not sure if I'm not sure if it happens at birth or if it can happen at other ages too. But I mean, some of the things you're describing, they just sound exactly like what they, in my, teacher of the visually impaired class, that they described a child with CVI, that, you could throw a ball at them and they'd catch it from the side. Or if you wanted them to learn something, don't put it in front of them. They might learn if it was way out here. So I'm just not, I'm just curious about whether he possibly could have CVI and not really have autism. But just a thought.
Great. And that's the best part about this, is everybody can throw out suggestions and from their own experience. So we'll take any of those. So thank you. Other thoughts, Kelly?
So some of the things about writing that we have to remember is that writing isn't always just a physical act, and that from some of the research work from Amy Staples and from Dr. Gretchen Hanser is that we have to get kids, especially with kids on the spectrum, involved in writing in multiple ways, and that we're working so much maybe with him on the physical act of writing that he might be a kid that we have to get into writing through writing is expression. And he might, he's challenged with the communicative act of expression, and maybe the writing act of expression might be something to be thinking about in all the other ways that we go about writing, in that yes, writing is putting letters together to make words, but writing is also putting words together to express ourselves, and that it could be words represented with pictures, and you can do that with either images on magnets that are on a magnetic board or on a cookie sheet, or you could do that with apps like the Clicker Connect that are just pictures that you put together. I'm wondering if he gets a chance to watch his brothers write and experience that, like when his brothers are doing their homework, if he sees them write. Just all those other ways that we write to express ourselves, and either moving pictures around or putting pictures together on a whiteboard. Something that is more, that writing is more than this physical act, and all the different ways that you've been talking about doing these things for 2 years with them, and it's not making sense. And so it might be a matter of trying some of the other strategies of writing. And that's why I was asking about what he's doing in reading. Is he doing anything in writing that's connecting to what he reads? Sequentially putting things together, parts of a story together. Some of the strategies that Amy Staples has is like looking at a picture and, writing or talking about what we see in a picture. And all those things might sound challenging to him, but we can try and put those things together for him in different ways and bringing writing to him in a different way than just the physical act of it. And then the physical act gets broken down into the pieces of writing.
Thank you.
And he might just be somebody that we have to deconstruct writing for rather than building it.
Gail says thumbs up.
We just have to remember that tracing isn't writing.
Sure. Great. Other suggestions? Laura, Stephanie, Katie, do you guys have other thoughts? Other students? Don't feel like you have to say something. I just want to make sure that you have the opportunity. If you've got some experience or some suggestions that you'd like to give, go ahead. Jenny? Or anybody? I don't know what's going on. Keep her muted. Any other thoughts, suggestions? Sounds like, we've given you like at least 4 pages worth of suggestions.
A lot of good ones. You guys were awesome.
Lots
Good ones.
Lots of stuff
Yeah.
to think about. So, as always with ECHO recommendations, if you gave a recommendation, if you would go ahead and send that to Giselle and I, we'll incorporate it into the recommendations that we give Connie, and that her and the team can share. Go ahead, Gail.
Well, I just have one totally unrelated suggestion, which is you talked about needing better communication between the 2 schools. And I want to suggest that you use some of those iPad features to like maybe have the one school take videos of him, have both schools take videos of him and what's going on, and you might be able to get some good collaboration going if you could share that information rather than having to go there to observe.
Great idea. Thank you.
Well, we have some more time, so please don't feel like if anybody has any additional suggestions they want to give, please go ahead, or anything else we should be thinking about, maybe even if it's non-writing specific. Okay. Well, we will go ahead, we'll compile all of these, get them to you, Connie, and then you and the teams can look at it and see what may work or may not work. And then, of course, we'd love to have you come back, and we'd love to hear how he's doing. Next week, Leslie Bechtel-Van Orman from the Department of Education will be joining us to talk about how to write AT into the IEP. So we're really excited about that. We haven't seen Leslie in a while, so we're really excited to see her as well as hear from her expertise. And then we do not have a case next week, so all of you who have just been waiting to present a case and to talk about a student, we would love to have a case. So if you're interested, let us know and we'll help you complete the paperwork for it. So that being said, we'll sign off and we'll see everybody next week.